Now, tonight's adventure into the unknown.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to SARGE Approved. I'm Sarge.
I am Frenzy. How's it going, everybody?
It's going great.
Yeah, it is going great.
We have a guest.
We do have a guest.
As always.
Yes.
Who we got, Frenzy?
We have Stephen Kavalkavich. Did I get it right? Nailed it? Again?
You got it right.
Yes. How's it going, sir?
It's going great, It's a pleasure to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We're excited to chat with you.
For our listeners who aren't familiar with Stephen Kavalkavich, come on. You're a podcaster. Mm-hmm. You are an author.
Inspirational speaker.
A paramedic, right? Inspirational speaker.
Uh-huh.
I used to be a paramedic, but we'll get into that for
Former
sure.
paramedic. Okay.
A man of many talents.
Yeah. Lots of things going on in your life. That's
Fair
cool.
enough to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man of many talents.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pause real quick so that we can hear a word from our sponsors. Sarge here.
Frenzy here.
They're here to tell you about our sponsor, Northland Vapor Company. They're serving the global vaping community. What they do is they provide quality and non-costly e-liquid. For all you vape heads out there, this is important. They source top quality raw materials and do not use any artificial coloring, preservatives, or sweeteners in their products.
That's awesome. They also have 13 amazing flavors that come in 2 different sizes. 120 mils, which is priced at $14.99, and the 30 mil bottle option, which is priced at $6.99. That's like half the cost of normal other places.
Than most places.
Yep. And they have some awesome flavors. The most popular right now is called Nuts and Cream. You're going to love these nuts.
Oh, I do love these nuts.
And they also have another flavor that is called Tangerine Dream, and it is oh so dreamy.
Northland Vapor also has a premium line called Apex. And these Apex liquid comes in 30 milliliter bottles for $9.99 generally and has 7 flavors for your blowing cloud pleasure. Northland Vapor also offers free domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more. And free shipping on international orders of $100 or more. Everybody loves free shipping.
Yeah, that's
Hell
awesome.
Yeah.
You can check out their website, northlandvapor.com, and use the code SARGE20 for 20% off e-liquid and swag. They have some pretty sweet swag.
They got some badass swag.
Awesome hats, t-shirts, stickers, all the things. And while you're there, make sure that you sign up for their Northlander Rewards program. You can earn points towards future orders, get discounts, savings, get promotional stuff, find out when new flavors are coming out. Just do that. And make sure Northland Vapor Company is on your radar. Be the cloud.
Do it.
Do it now.
Later, fuckers.
Bye.
Sarge here.
Frenzy here.
To talk to you about Alpine Hemp and their awesome hemp oil products. Okay, Alpine Hemp makes full spectrum whole plant hemp oil, also known as CBD oil, which is extracted from the hemp plant, and it's not psychoactive. That means it can't get you high, and you're not going to fail a drug test.
Exactly. Hemp oil is made up of cannabinoids, and these are natural compounds that are found in whole plant hemp extract. They can be used to help with pain, inflammation, anxiety, cigarette addiction, acne, mood swings, sleep issues, and so many more things. It's got so many beneficial properties.
Alpine Hemp is committed to creating the highest quality and most effective hemp oil products on the market. They source high quality, organic ethanol extracted hemp oil. This allows them to have an all-natural product from start to finish.
Boom. And you're probably wondering, is it legal? Yes, absolutely. It's completely legal because it's extracted from hemp grown organically in the US of A. Alpine Hemp offers their quality products in 3 different forms. They have capsules, tinctures, put a little dip in your coffee, and vape e-liquid.
Yes, and you can do all this research on your own, or you can go to alpinehemp.com and get more info.
Yeah, and while you're there, use the code SARGE20 for 20% off of your order.
Beautiful! Boom!
Bye!
Later.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin from Comics Watching Comics. Hey Kevin, you sound a little bit hoarse. Well, that's true. I was just in Vegas. Or I've been screaming from the mountaintops that Comics Watching Comics is now on Amazon Video. That's right. Season 1, Comics Watching Comics, now on Amazon Video, guys. And we also have Comics Watching Comics t-shirts for sale. That's right. From small to extra large, and for $20, including shipping, you can have your own Comics Watching Comics t-shirt. Contact me at my website, kevingoatee.com or comicswatchingcomics.com to see what they look like, and then you can get yourself a t-shirt. That's comicswatchingcomics.com and on Amazon Video now. Okay, I'll get some rest and drink some tea and honey. I got it. Hey everyone, it's Kevin from the SportsBook Box Office Podcast. What's going on? In the next month or so, Jeff and I are going to be having on the show Gino Bisconti, Season 5 panelist for Comics Watching Comics, as also can be seen on the show In Hot Water and on HBO's Crashing. We're going to have Brandon Scott back on the phone as well to do NFL talk. Brandon is the handicapper extraordinaire, the guy who the film Two for the Money with Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino was based on. So, big heavy-handed gambling talk because, let's face facts, kids, 'tis the season with NFL right here. But don't worry, we're still going to talk about baseball playoffs and how Kevin's Yankees are looking pretty good for the playoffs, while Debbie Paul's Mets are just used to being the Mets. Sportsbook Box Office Podcast, iTunes, Google Play. Just want to say thanks so much for listening, and be sure to spread the word to your friends if you like the podcast. Again, thanks for listening. And now back to Sarge and Frenzy.
Okay, we are back. Break it down for us, brother. Who is Stephen Kavalkavich?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I guess, the best place I guess I would start is, I was a former paramedic. I was a, World Trade Center 9/11 rescue personnel, worker, I guess. And that's around when the beginning of my EMS career started around that time, and I
wonderful time
wound
to
up
start your career.
What's that?
Wonderful time to start your rescue worker career is during 9/11 attacks.
And that just gave me goosebumps when you said that too.
Well, I guess you could say it actually started a couple years before that, but that's when my life really took like a crazy. The roller coaster really started, I think, around then. Actually, I use that as an excuse for a lot of things. Sometimes I feel like ashamed to admit it, but I use that as an excuse to do a lot of self-destructive things and hurt a lot of, just cause a lot of pain for people in my life. And it wasn't purposeful. That's what hhappened.
Because you were dealing with pain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was definitely dealing with a lot of pain. And, I used to, like I just said, I used to blame the job. I used to blame 9/11. I blame all that stuff on my life. But the truth is, a lot of it started long before I ever got in an ambulance. It started in childhood. It started with those feelings of inadequacy, those self-loathing type feelings. I always share this whenever I speak to people that I was a triplet. I was the third of three, and I was the last one born, and we lost the middle one at birth. And those two were identical, and I was like the oddball, and I always identified myself with the Danny DeVito Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, Twins.
So,
great movie, by the way.
Your other triplet, you and the one that survived, was he like giant like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Was it that drastic?
No, not even close. But what I identified with was that I felt there was a line in that movie where they basically said to DeVito's character, we made your brother like the perfect specimen, and we made you're basically the shit left over. Oh, and that's how I felt. And I don't know why I felt that way from a young age, but for some reason I identified with that. And I think part of it was because I wasn't your typical boy in the sense that I didn't do boy things. I didn't like athletics. I didn't like to get dirty. I wasn't like that kind of kid. But for some reason, I accepted society's belief or my peers' belief or even my parents that I was supposed to fit into that box. And I tried to force myself in,
Mm-hmm. Instead of just doing what you felt like you wanted to do. Like there's that expectation that you should be a certain way.
Well, that can be that can suck if you feel a little different like that and your parents aren't supportive in who you are. If they have these kind of expectations for you and how you're going to turn out. That can be hard as hell.
Yeah, it is. And I didn't really blame them, and I still don't blame them. I think it was just they were a product of their own upbringings,
Right.
But I mean, an interesting story was when I was about 10, I played football for the local rec council football, and I was the kid that cried every day of practice, and I hated every moment of it. But I wanted to make my dad proud. I wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a funny story. I share it a lot because it's funny looking back. But we were in a championship game, and there was about 2 minutes before the end of the game, and a fumble rolled out, and I was the only one who happened to see it, and I grabbed it, and I was so uncoordinated and had no idea what to do. I just stood there in the middle of the field and held the ball up like a trophy because I didn't want to run the wrong way and get everybody mad at me.
Right.
So I just stood there.
Oh, cute.
And then he got leveled.
No, thank God the referee knew that this kid was going to get killed, so they stopped it. They stopped it before anybody, pummeled me.
You were about to get wrecked.
But that's just who I was, and going forward a little bit, it all came down to acceptance. I think that's just a thing for for all of us. We want to feel connected. We don't want to be isolated, and I think that's just a basic human need from childhood. And seventh grade, right around the time I realized that girls didn't have cooties and I wanted to have a girlfriend, I asked out every girl in seventh grade probably within 4 days. And I was that
just went
kid,
to town.
I'm just going to roll with this.
Well, when you know, I guess, right?
So, I had acne, I had big glasses, I even started losing my hair when I was adolescent. So I had every awkward puberty issue that you could have. And, just that was my cross to bear, if you will.
Yeah.
And, but then something really crazy happened. Crazy, and I freely talk about it because I believe that I was one of the this was one of the things that was placed in my life for me to be able to utilize it later to help others, and that's what I do with it. So I'll share it. I was 14, and I moved to a new school, and a guidance counselor introduced me to this other kid to kind of be like my buddy to show me around. And he was like this other awkward kid who wore Jesus t-shirts and carried a Bible. And I remember thinking, well, I'm really a loser, but I'm kind of less of a loser than this kid, so maybe I could be cool if I hang out with him because I'm a little cooler is what I thought. And he brought me to a Young Life group, a youth organization, a Christian organization, and there was a leader there who happened to be very charismatic and very, people loved him. He was like a magnet. A lot of the kids really liked him, and he accepted me into his inner circle, I guess. And looking back now, I think he was one of those people that was able to target the vulnerable, and he did, and he tried to molest me.
Oh, jeez.
And yeah. And
sorry.
I, of course, at that age, I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But I did speak up. And here's an omen, if you will. I wound up meeting, with my parents and the leaders of this national organization at a church in my town where 20 years later I would go to AA meetings at. So here's an omen. We met with them in the same room that they still hold AA to this day. And I met these people, and they said, well, he denies it. You probably misunderstood something. It didn't really happen. And basically, we don't believe you. And
wow.
This was before a lot of the Catholic priest stuff started coming out.
Yeah.
So, it was it just went hush hush and, swept under the rug. And, but what I did identify with this was the first time I really felt the feelings of abandonment, rejection, shame, and guilt.
Well, yeah, because you had the courage to speak up and talk about it and say this happened to me, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing. And then for that to be like, oh, you're lying, or that didn't happen. Like,
yeah, how shitty is that? You got to feel pretty damn alone if no one's even believing what actually happened. I mean, did you even have like a friend or somebody you could confide in, somebody that could at least kind of have your back in some way?
Well, the kid that brought me there was the first person I told, and here's another thing that tells me that there is a plan and there is a purpose for everything. Is that kid who's now an adult, who's my age, I go to church with him to this day, and we're friends, and it's just we lost touch after high school for, let's say, about 10 years or so, but we go to church together, our kids hang out together sometimes, and it's funny how that all things work out for good in one way or another. But at that time, that was really when I really started searching for some kind of real acceptance, because now I felt alone, because not only did this organization call me a liar, but all the kids that love this guy, they all like blame me, saying like, what are you trying to jam him up for, or whatever. And so I just decided that it was at that time I really started seeking any kind of acceptance. I would join any group of kids, as long as even if they were doing things that I didn't necessarily agree with, as long as I wasn't alone, I would compromise myself. So, and here's kind of where the whole idea of becoming a rescuer happened. So maybe about that fall or so of that year, I wound up getting a chance to actually date a girl who happened to be a cheerleader. So I thought, like, I really scored,
Nice. Good work.
And right. Well, and we dated for like a really, really long high school relationship, and I say this in jest. That was like a week, because that's about how long a really long high school relationship generally lasts. We dated for like that week, and then we did that other thing that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hate each other, because that's what you do at that age. So we'd see each other down the hallway or whatever, and give dirty looks, or gossip and make up stories about each other.
So stupid.
That's what happens. She's got crabs or something, and or whatever. But then December, I believe it was 17th of that year, we happened to both be in the choir, and we were singing at a church for Christmas time, and they just happened to place us next to each other, in the group. And I remember like it was yesterday, standing next to her thinking, it's Christmas time, and I said a lot of bad things. Maybe I should apologize, because you never know what could happen. But my fear of rejection, my fear of, my ego, my pride got in the way, and I didn't say anything. And an hour later, she was killed in a car accident.
Oh my gosh, sad.
Yeah. So now let's compound. Now, of course, I took that and blamed myself. Like, maybe if I took that 5 minutes, maybe she wouldn't have gotten in the accident. That woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff.
You do. Yeah.
So, it got worse for me. But a lot of the kids, a couple of the guys I knew were about my age at that time, were junior members of the local fire department, and they had gone on that emergency call. And I said, man, that's what I want to do. Maybe I can, like, kind of, I guess, redeem myself by doing that. And I learned two things, and I didn't learn them for, let's say about 18 to 20 years later. I didn't realize that I actually subconsciously became a rescuer, so to speak, because there wasn't anybody to rescue me from all of my stuff. And I think, and I can't say this for everybody who gets into the world of being a first responder, but I believe that's a lot of the story for a lot of people who get into it, is that they felt, their childhood issues, they were alone, and they, it brought them into a place where they wanted to help others. They got to a place to rescue other people. And again, that's not a rule for everybody, of course, but I've met a lot of people who have identified with that.
Yeah,
So-
it makes sense, though.
Well, that's got to take, regardless of whether it came from a place of pain or whatnot, it's got to take a particular kind of person to even want to be a rescue worker, to be a paramedic or anything, because I know I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to see the kind of tragedy and death and injuries and things that a paramedic sees
I'd be crying like
on a
all
daily
the time.
basis.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it on a
No.
daily basis. I think it would be just too damn difficult for me. So it's got to take a particular kind of person, because you're not going to get rich being a paramedic, obviously.
Oh no.
So it's something you've got to go into with that, like, in your soul. That's something that you're striving to do, because for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I definitely agree with that. So for me, it was opportunity met circumstance, and I had that innate ability to be able to handle those type of those type of traumatic situations, and also my own underlying stuff. It was like the perfect storm. So, but at this time too, I joined the fire department. I got a uniform, I got a badge, I got a pager, I got a blue light for my car, and I thought I had arrived, because now I'm important. I'm part of something. I get to be in charge. Like all of those kind of things that were fulfilling certain needs. They were, and also giving me identity, because ultimately that's what I was seeking.
Right.
So I did. I got involved with that, and this is a really interesting thing, and I share it a lot with a lot of people, and some people think it's controversial, and it is, but this is my belief. So in 2001, this was the spring of 2001, shortly before 9/11. I'm in paramedic school and in Philadelphia, and at Thomas Jefferson Hospital, and I was on the 10th floor for hospital time for the day. And a pharmaceutical company came in to do a drug rep lunch where they bring in all the food, and they give like a little presentation.
Wine and dine ya. Buy our drugs, please.
Yeah.
It's basically bullshit. So the pharmaceutical company was Purdue Pharma, and this was the very first time they were rolling OxyContin out onto the market. And I sat in on that lecture. And they said, this will be the greatest pain medicine there is. There's no issues with dependency or addiction, and it's going to be, the miracle pill. Mm-hmm. And then, not even, I want to say it was maybe a month or two later. I couldn't, I don't remember exactly, but 9/11 happens, and I wake up that morning. I actually called out of work that morning. It was 6 a.m. I called out of work because I didn't feel good, and 8:45 or so, when the first plane hit the first tower, my brother woke me up and said, turn the TV on, and I saw the towers burning, and I called the fire department that I was a member of, and I said, what happened? We all know what just happened. What are we doing? They said, just pack a bag and get up here. So I did, and within about 20 minutes, I was on my way up to New York, and it was a very surreal experience. Driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, we were in a line of ambulances, and the people were pulled over on the side of the road. Just some of them were like standing outside of their cars, like saluting us and whatnot. It was really surreal and crazy. And I'll never forget getting up to the point in the New Jersey Turnpike when you actually finally start seeing the skyline of New York. And cars were pulled over, and people were just staring at the smoke rising, and they were just dumbfounded. And we didn't know what we were going into. And here's something I share a lot, and this is the truth. It's something you're never going to hear on any kind of network news. But I got onto a boat from Jersey City, which is to cross the Hudson River into Lower Manhattan that night. Because by the time we got there, it was it was nighttime. And by the time we actually started heading over, and we got on a boat, I would say there was about 100 of us, firefighters, cops, military, EMS personnel, physicians, nurses, and everybody was getting drunk.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Seriously.
Yeah. Now,
what is that
when
about?
I share when I share that in a lot of the talks I give. Mm-hmm. I was actually given a talk about 2 weeks ago, and I shared that exact thing. And this lady in the front row was shaking her head, like look, she had that look like, that's so shameful. And I said to her, I said, ma'am, I know what you're thinking. That's like shameful. These people are going to help people. That's preposterous. Why would they do that? I said, let me finish what I'm saying, and I want to hear what you have to say after that. So she said, okay. So we go over to Manhattan. If you've ever been to New York, it's a really loud place. It's New York.
Yep.
That night it was silent.
Oh.
The only thing I heard was the sound of the alarms on the firefighters' air packs, which says they're in distress. And if you don't know what that sound is, you wouldn't recognize it. But I knew what it was, and it meant those men were dead and not coming home, and there were hundreds of them. That's all you heard.
God, that's got to be so eerie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could still hear it, actually talking about it. I could still, hear it, Ugh. And so there was that. That was the one issue that one of the things that I really carried with me. And the next part was that we went over to help, and there wasn't anybody to help. I spent a couple days there, and there was nobody to help because they were either dead in the hospital or already evacuated from the area. So I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt powerless, because here we were going to be the rescuers, and there's nobody to rescue. And I internalized that. So going forward, I went home, got back back into the swing of regular life. We all tried to start moving on, I guess. And I started working as a medic in Trent, New Jersey, which is a very urban, very urban. It's an urban environment, very, seeing gang fights and overdoses and stabbings and shootings every day. And I was a cocky young kid who, at that point I was drinking. I was 20, 21 years old, drinking, to what I was thinking was normal. But it was getting out of, I was coming into work hungover. And then I started smoking a lot of pot, showing up to work. I'd smoke blunts in the ambulance. It was crazy.
No, Steven.
Yeah. I mean, it's just how it is. And it wasn't just me. And I'm not going to call anybody out. But, I mean, it just I don't care what you do for a living, what degree you have on your wall, what house you live in, or how much money you have. You're a human being at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And our coping mechanisms and how we handle stress, there's only a handful of responses. And I think that's pretty universal no matter what you do, as long as you're a human,
Right.
I've gone into work hungover before. I'll be the first to admit that. The bringing the blunts to work, though. Oh, no, Steven. You gotta keep that at home. You gotta keep the blunts at home for after work.
Yeah, well, I tried, and it wasn't a regular occurrence, but every once in a while we would work with a guy who was a little like me, and we would do things like that, and it's a lot more common than you think.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'd much rather have my paramedic that's arriving if I'm in dire straits. I'd much rather him be a little stoned and calm than fucking drunk. That's for sure.
Dude, listen, I agree with you on that.
At least he'll be relaxed, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I always did the job. I was a very good clinician. I did the job right. But I was dealing with my own stuff. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I was trying to fill this hole inside with getting a different job, or getting a different girlfriend, or cheating on the girlfriend I have, or gambling, or buying this new thing, something to always trying to fill this internal hole with external things. And that just doesn't work long term. But it was always trying to fill with something. And so I wound up, started to take, starting getting prescribed things like Xanax and Ativan for anxiety, or I wasn't sleeping and working crazy shifts, and wrecking my car because I was taking too much, Xanax or whatever. It was just starting to get out of control.
Yeah.
And
do you think the job was the one thing that was kind of keeping you from completely derailing your life altogether?
At that time, yeah, I think so. I think it was, because I still had some sense of identity. Mm-hmm. And, But over some time, I got married, I had a kid, and around 2008 was the first time I wound up going into rehab, because I had been taking a lot of Percocet and Vicodin for, work, work-related injuries, back, wrenching your back, or, other types of injuries.
Yep.
And I was starting to become physically dependent and, chemically dependent on opiates. And I went to rehab in 2008. I spent 30 days there in Florida, and I had a therapist who was a convicted murderer who wound up. Yeah,
how is that a thing? How is your therapist a convicted murderer?
He's a very interesting guy, and he's pretty well known. He killed a guy in a bar in 1982 on the 4th of July in front of 100 witnesses. Shot him in front of 100 people. He doesn't remember it because he was in a blackout because he was high.
So he's reformed. He's like one of these reformed guys that's using his past fuck ups in life to actually help other people now.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. He spent 11 years in prison, got sober, and became a therapist and all that. So I'm sitting there, and this is the guy who's teaching me, how to live, so to speak. So I went there. I spent 30 days there. I did everything I was told to do. I came home, and I'll never. And this was the time. This first time I went, and I. It's important, I think, to make this point. Is I went there with the support of everybody in my family and everybody in my life. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're behind you." I got the care packages sent to me in the mail and the cards, and we're here for you, all that. And I didn't experience any type of consequences or pain. And I found that pleasure is a motivator for a certain period, but pain's a greater motivator. And I hadn't felt any of that. It was really just because I wanted to appease everybody. Mm-hmm. So I came home. I went to a meeting. I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting that night when I got home. And my friend said, "I don't think you're going to make it." I said, "What are you talking about, dude? I just got out of rehab. I'm fixed. I'm good." He goes, "You haven't felt any pain." And I said, "Well, that's bullshit, man. I don't have to feel pain." And if I could talk to that guy today, I'd tell him he was absolutely right, because it wasn't very long before I was back in trouble and getting worse. Nothing motivated me to really change or actually look at my underlying stuff.
So that pain is kind of that rock bottom feeling, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, they say, the rock bottom. That's a pretty common phrase to be used. And the bottom line is this: they say that, and they say it very commonly in 12-step fellowship meetings and even in rehabs, that the alcohol or the drugs or the gambling or the sex or the spending or whatever the thing it is you're doing that's become unmanageable, that's really not your problem. That's actually your solution. Mm-hmm. That's a symptom of your problem. And your problem is really yourself and dealing with the stuff that you haven't dealt with. And I think that's 100% true.
Yeah. When you went to rehab, was it your choice to go? Were you this is something that I wanted, you were fully invested in going the first time?
It was my choice, but nobody had told me to go. It was just kind of one of those, maybe I should go get some help or something.
Right.
But it wasn't this strong, oh my God, my life's falling apart.
Yeah.
Thing.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense too.
So, I came home, and it wasn't very long before I was I was back into it again. But it was just getting worse, and now I lost a couple jobs, and, my reputation was going to shit, and as a provider, because you kind of get blackballed in the EMS community. It's a small community, and if you screw up something in North Jersey, everybody in South Jersey knows it by the afternoon, because it's a small world.
Yeah.
And, I started losing jobs. My wife and me separated. She had had enough. We wound up moving in with her parents, because I was blowing all the money on the mortgage and everything like that. It was just a total disaster. Mm-hmm. And went to another rehab, and I thought I had it again. And, it was kind of in and out for a little bit. And eventually, I got divorced. And eventually, heroin became in the picture. Now, a lot of people say to me, "Well, didn't you know better?" Well, yeah, fuck yeah, I knew better. I was a trained paramedic who gave Narcan, which is the drug they give to reverse a heroin overdose. I gave that to probably 1,000 people in my career. It's not. I certainly knew better, but it wasn't about knowing better.
Right.
It was about, for me, I was already addicted to painkillers. I had an elbow surgery, and I wound up getting more painkillers, and the doctor cut me off because I didn't need them after 2 weeks after post-op surgery. And so it became a financial decision. Heroin for me became a financial decision because the pill on the street for like a Percocet or an Oxycontin was $30 to $50 versus a bag of heroin was $7.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. And that is truly what I believe that a lot of people, that's how it happens with most.
That's too damn easy.
It's too damn easy, and it wasn't about knowing better. And here's something else that I think people don't necessarily recognize is opiate painkillers. They're decent for physical pain, but they do a hell of a great job on emotional pain.
Yeah, they just numb everything, including how you're feeling.
They numb everything. They help you kind of like cope and be able to get through another day in some insane way. So I wound up making the choice to go to heroin. And believe you me, I never planned on it. And people will say, well, it's a choice. Yeah, it was a choice. You're right. Everything that's ever been done is a choice. Mm-hmm. So, like, making the argument whether it's a choice or a disease to me is a stupid argument because it's really irrelevant. What's relevant is there's people dying of this. What are we going to do about that? Not arguing about what it is and what it isn't. I think that's just not solution based. So I wound up doing heroin. I wound up saying, I said to myself, as long as I don't put a needle in my arm, I'll be fine. Well, of course, that lasted like a week, and now I'm sticking a needle in my arm, and I overdosed. And the paramedics who came to revive me was a paramedic that I used to work with.
Fuck.
Yeah, and he was very kind to me. And he didn't treat me bad or anything. And but to be honest with you, I was still hopelessly addicted to this stuff. I was physically and mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and everything. Everything. I was hooked on it, and I kept going for a little. I kept doing it. I kept losing losing friends, losing family members, losing my kids, losing my, I said earlier, I lost my marriage. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse.
But heroin was always there when you were losing all those things. It was still like, I'll be here for you.
The sweet mistress.
Yeah.
I'll be here for you.
It was always there. And at this point, my paramedic certification was revoked. Well, they let me surrender it in New Jersey because the company that I worked for had sent me to a couple rehabs. I showed up high again, and they said enough's enough. And the guy at the state who was going to revoke my certification, I knew him, and he said, I don't want to see this ruin your life, so we'll let you surrender it so it doesn't look as bad.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So, but unfortunately, that actually gave me license to keep,
of course.
That gave me license to manipulate some more because I still had a certification across the river in Pennsylvania. And I wound up getting a job over there. Not too, maybe, I don't know how long after, but I shot some heroin and drove an ambulance. And thank God I didn't kill anybody.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn it, Steven.
But I did. And I wound up losing my certification officially for that. I actually got the letter on 9/11 of that year in 2015 saying your certification is going to be revoked.
So they found out about it. They became wise that you were on the job.
Yeah, my partner had told my boss, and yeah. And again, they weren't harsh, they weren't mean. They just like, you can't do this anymore. And I was like, well, I guess so. But what's even more, as crazy and tragic as it all is, the biggest thing is once that thing that I knew that was my security blanket since that girl died when I was in high school, that gave me identity. Now my identity was completely gone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
Because whenever I met somebody, in my life, when you meet somebody, the first things you ask are, what's your name? Oh, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I'm a paramedic. I never said that's what I do. I said that's what I am.
Right.
And when I'm not that anymore, what the hell am I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wound up in another treatment center in Florida, and this time I really decided that enough's enough. And at that, and to kind of like abridge the story a little bit, my family, my parents, the people that brought me into this world, finally started getting help for themselves because I was financially killing them with all the jackpots I was getting into, and lawyers and court or whatever for any trouble I would get into, or just the manipulating to try to get more money to keep my habit going. I was destroying them, and they finally recognized that somebody had given them the great advice to get some help for themselves, that they didn't cause my problem, they couldn't fix it, and it wasn't their fault. Mm-hmm. And they got help. And the last time I overdosed again, and another medic partner I worked with came and revived me on their living room floor. They said, the hospital was like, where are you going to go? I said, I'll go back to my mom's. And they were like, no, you're not. You can't. And that was the best thing that saved my life.
Yeah.
That saved my life, because a lot of people, that's the big piece of this that gets missed, because whenever someone's stuck in active addiction or substance abuse, everybody puts the focus on the person doing the behavior, right? Mm-hmm. But there's another piece of it. This is a family problem, and when the families think they're trying to help,
they're enabling. They're actually enabling them.
They're enabling them, and they're actually helping them dig their grave for them. Mm-hmm. By continuing to let them back in and paying the bills or whatever. And this is what I tell, people that have addicted children contact me regularly, and they say, what do I do? My son is this or that, and what do I do? I say, listen, I can't tell you if he's going to change, but I can tell you that the best chance he has for him to change is if you do something different, because everything you're doing is not helping. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to change something. And it could be you or them, but more than likely, it's not going to be them.
Right.
Yeah. And I see that side of it. There's got to be some exceptions to the rule, because where did you go that after that second time you overdosed and you couldn't go back to your parents' house? Where'd you go that night?
Well, I wound up in a sober living house.
Okay. That's good. And because I'm just wondering about the people that that aren't you, that are in that same situation. What if they don't go to a sober living house that night? What if they go to some alleyway, some abandoned house, or just another person that's going to allow them to shoot up?
Yeah, they'll continue on the same path
and overdose for the last time. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a very, very gray area and fine line, mm-hmm. and there's not one single answer, unfortunately. But I just know that. It's in order for anything to really change, someone's got to take a step and do something. And to take that a step further, letting go does not mean that you don't care. It just means you can't do it for them.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You have to let go and not. But I think that's the tricky part, is people aren't so, I guess, open to doing that when they have someone like that in their life that they care about and love, because that makes them feel like, oh, I'm giving up on them. I'm giving up. Right,
and and they think they don't love them. And I always say to people, listen, it doesn't mean that you don't love them and you don't let them know that you love them. Mm-hmm. It just means that you're not going to contribute to them killing themselves anymore. And they might kill themselves anyways. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. They might. Mm-hmm. But
they might.
You still have to preserve your own life.
Exactly.
And maybe your husband or your other kids or whatever. And so, when people say the word tough love, I don't even like that statement, because it sounds so harsh. But it's really it's letting go with love. And it's very important for everybody, and it's the best chance I think somebody has. Again, it's not a black and white thing. None of this is. I don't believe anything in the world is black and white.
No, it's so much gray. So many grays.
How many shades do you think?
Probably like 75. I'm not going to go to the 50. I'm not going with 50. Ew.
There's a lot of shades. And
statistics show there's exactly 50 shades.
Yeah. No, it's true.
They made a movie about it. I mean, come on.
It's not the same thing.
But it's the way, it's the truth, I think. And for me, I mean, at least for me, this is, me, what I know for me is this is when I finally said enough's enough. And I did something different, because for the first couple times I was in and out of rehab, and I started to become institutionalized because I got used to being in facilities, and that's a dangerous line too, because I've known people that are in 10, 20 rehabs, and they're like, I need to go back to rehab. I'm like, what are you going to do in rehab? Like, you could teach rehab. There's nothing you need. Yeah. There's nothing you're going to learn there that you don't already know.
You know all the ins and outs, and you know how to work it. And at that point, it's like a vacation.
Or is it because they don't know how to function in normal society anymore?
Well, that's the danger of continuing to go back. But again, it's a catch-22 with that, right? Because what do you do then? But another thing that I changed too, man, is I got really. For those few times I was in and out, I focused so much on this AA or NA, Narcotics Anonymous, 12-step fellowship is the only answer, because that's the Kool-Aid that I drank. And I believe that that's great for some. If that works for you, awesome. For me, it didn't work for me. And I recognize something else that I think is very important, that a lot of, even in 12-step fellowships, a lot of people get shamed because of this, and I think it's a problem, is medication-assisted treatment. And I say that, I talk about Suboxone and stuff like Vivitrol, which is a shot once a month, which blocks opiates. So I think there's a very important, that's another part of what saved my life.
How does that work? It blocks opiates? So like you have this shot and opiates have no effect on you? They don't get you high?
That's correct. Yeah, they won't get you high. And they actually it actually helps reduce cravings. But the other thing is Suboxone, which I'm sure you've heard of, which has an opiate in it, but it also has a blocker. So basically what it's doing is let me step back for a second. So if you're taking opiates for, let's say, 10 years, your brain will create receptors that the average brain doesn't have. So when you stop using them, those brain receptors still need to get filled. Hence the craving and the chronic relapsing.
Yeah.
Because, so if you take a thing like Suboxone done responsibly by a responsible physician who's not just trying to make money off it, because that's a whole other tangent. And it does and it's a disgusting thing that happens. But you take the Suboxone, which has the opiate in it, so it fills those receptors, but you get the blocker so you don't get high off of it.
So it's a very mild opiate.
Correct.
Function to it. Okay.
Yes. So you take that for a few months. You start maybe getting into therapy to start addressing your underlying causes and conditions as to why you started doing these things in the first place, and combine them with physical exercise. Combine them with also this, finding your dreams. I believe this is true. If you start building a life that you want and becoming that person, remember going back to the beginning of my story, that person that I was always trying to fit in other people's boxes because I didn't feel okay to be me. If you start finally figuring out who you really are and accepting the fact that you can be okay being who you are without having to matter what other people think.
Yes.
And chase your dreams and your passions and find your purpose and do all those things, you have a really good plan for a long-term recovered type life. There's a study that was done, I believe, in the 50s, and they took a rat and they put him in a cage, and they put a bottle of water, and they put a bottle of water with cocaine in it, and the rat overdosed and died from the cocaine.
Oh yeah.
Years later, I mean, obviously, right?
Go for
years later, they changed the study, and they put a big rat cage. They called it Rat Park. And they put multiple rats in there. They put food in there. They put obstacles. They put the same 2 bottles in there. Not a single one of them overdosed. The point of it is if you build a life with connection with others and have your basic needs met, the dope man will still be on the corner, but you're more than likely not going to do it because you built a life that you want.
Right, and you don't want to ruin it.
Wow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is incredible. Do you know about how many rats were in there?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
Wow.
But it's a great metaphor, and for me, that's what's worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started chasing my dreams, and I'm not downing 12-step fellowships. If that works for you, awesome. Okay, I don't discredit that at all, but I know that some people are very staunchly saying that's the only way. Well, I argue with that and say, well, if that's the only way, if every single one of us is a unique individual person who comes with different circumstances and wound up in a place of desperation, and we're all different. If 50 roads led us there, how could one way be the only way out?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of paradox even in the language used in 12-step fellowships, where they say things like, it's one day at a time, but then when somebody meets you and they find out you're in recovery, the first question they ask is, how many days do you have?
Yeah.
Well, if it's one day at a time, what does it matter?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like this little badge, this little, trophy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you get a chip.
Like it qualifies you for something.
Right.
I know a lot of people that have 20 years without a drink or a drug, but cheat on their wives and beat their kids. So what are we talking about here?
I'm curious. I want to go back just a second because I'm curious about those opiate receptors that you were talking about. Is that something with this treatment, this drug? What was the name of the drug that has the mild?
Suboxone or the shot.
Yeah, is that something that those receptors do they go away over time or through the course of this treatment? Is that something that is always there?
Well, so that's the thing. Eventually, if you this is how it happened with me. I got a physician who was trustworthy, who didn't just charge me only cash and bullshit like that, like a lot of Suboxone doctors do, because they've realized it's a cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to that because I told you about the pharmaceutical rep with the Oxycontin, and I want to get to that.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I got with a doctor who prescribed me a mild dose of it, the Suboxone. I did it for a few months, and I wound up weaning myself down. And those receptors over time kind of heal themselves.
Okay.
And then I got on the Vivitrol shot, which was the blocker, because in case I wanted to try going to shoot dope, I wouldn't get high. But also it helps to reduce the cravings, and it helps to the longer you're off something, those receptors kind of die off. It's kind of like the longer you go without exercising, the muscles you have built up over time tend to atrophy. It's like the same thing.
Okay.
So,
easy.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
So then, I want to share this because, this is where I'm going to get real controversial. So I told you I sat in that meeting with Purdue Pharma with the Oxycontin. 9/11 happened. Where did we go after 9/11? We went to Afghanistan, and we are still in Afghanistan. What is in Afghanistan? Opium, right? Mm-hmm. What is the biggest problem we have in our country today? Opiate addiction.
Big time, without a doubt. Yes.
So draw the parallel. I have a friend that I met in rehab who was he was a Marine in Afghanistan. He spent 2 tours, I believe, in Afghanistan. His job was to guard the poppy fields all day.
Yep, I've heard these stories.
Yeah. He got addicted. He got kicked out of the military because of his addiction, and he died of an overdose just over a year ago. So you tell me.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard the stories of soldiers guarding those poppy fields that actually were partaking in led to addiction and things like that, but just the stories that we're guarding them alone, that's even something that's happening. And they say that we guard it because when we first invaded, that was the only way that the people of Afghanistan could make a living, was by having these poppy fields. That's how they made their money. And if we were to just come in and take it all away, then suddenly, how are they going to provide for their families anymore? How are they going to earn any kind of living? what else is there in Afghanistan? When you look at huge the opiate market is, and how much money it generates, and it sounds a little fishy.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easily.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it's awesome that you've had all these crazy experiences and you've come out on the better side of life, my friend.
Steven, your life is a goddamn movie.
You need to write a book. I seriously think you should write a book about it. Because it would help people. And obviously that's what you're doing now, trying to do now.
He's an author, right?
Right. Well, yeah, but I don't know what he's written.
They should make a movie is what they should do. And that shit will win some awards. I guarantee it, because it is dramatic. It has intrigue. It sounds like a movie, my friend. I mean, and now this has all led to you being an inspirational speaker. I mean, you speak on the experiences in your life on a regular basis. You're an author. I mean, break it down. What has this evolved to?
Well, so yeah, I've been writing for blogs for a while, etc. And eventually I wound up. I realized that people don't like to read as much today. They just don't have the attention span with all the things trying to attack them.
Yeah, this is true.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. So I mean, you know what I mean. It's just people just don't want to read these days. So I realized that, and I said, well, what do we do with that? Let me figure out another way to reach people. So I thought the idea of podcasting made sense, because it's obviously, as you guys know, it's becoming huge. And then I said, well, who do I want to reach, and what's my message? I said, well, first responders are the big people that I want to reach, because it's so important to reach those people who struggle, there's a code of silence that goes on in the first responder world, where you're supposed to be tough and suck it up and deal with it and not show emotion or not have feelings even. And that's just not true.
It's like the military.
And I know, it's like the military. It's no different than the military, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew that it was something that needed to be talked about. And I said, well, is there any show about that? Any show around the world about that? And I saw that there wasn't. So I said, well, what do I do? As far as how, what do I do? I want to, if there's nothing out there, it seems like an opportunity. So I started the show called Rescue the Rescuer, and it's on pretty much all the same platforms I imagine your show's on as well. iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, all those places.
That's a damn good name, by the way.
It is a good name.
Yeah, it just kind of came to me. It actually came to me a long time ago, the idea of the show. So I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And I got picked up by the Mental Health News Radio Network and got to be a part of that before the show was even on the air. And they have multiple different shows at all different areas of mental health. And it was just an honor and a blessing. So now I get to talk to people, and it's really interview-based. I talk to people all over the world that have different programs, or they're providers, or different, people that are involved in that world. Whereas, treating first responders or first responders with a story. Last night I interviewed a group called the Code Green Campaign, and they do a lot of education and awareness for first responder suicide. And which actually, here's an interesting statistic, that the suicide rate amongst first responders is 3 times the line of duty death rate.
Wow.
Really?
So their job is inherently dangerous, and a lot of them die because of the on-job related incidents. Mm-hmm. But suicide is still trumping that by 3 times.
God damn! I was wondering what kind of numbers were involved with EMT, paramedic, rescue workers with drug addiction. How many of them tend to self-medicate in some way, and not just lightly, but where it becomes a problem. And how many of them end up committing suicide? I mean, is this something that's a big thing in that field? Where how many of them go through it where they're fine, they end up handling it, and how many of them shit falls apart for them?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you. It's obvious that it's a problem, and it's obvious that it needs to be addressed. And I've been blessed enough to be able to have a platform to use.
So it is enough of a problem where it's not a fleeting thing. It happens regularly enough where it's a noticeable problem.
Right. And here's another interesting fact is I got the hospital, or I'm sorry, not the hospital, this group I had on the show last night. They're actually offering scholarships and free service, whether it be therapy or treatment for any first responder who responded to Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that they know what the deal is,
right.
It's obvious.
Well, there's obviously like PTSD stuff involved with paramedics and first responders too, just like the military. I mean, the things that they see, and then they're seeing things that are just normal, like people driving down the road, and
I would feel
I don't know.
Compared to, I served in the military. I was in the Army, and I served in Baghdad over in OIF 3. I went over there in 2004, right after we invaded, and from everything I've seen, I feel like just because there's so many more military personnel than there is paramedic workers.
Yeah, it's a smaller community. But
we don't see the traumatic shit on a daily basis.
Exactly.
That it is really kind of few and far between for most military personnel. I saw plenty of horrible shit over there, but it wasn't every day. I would go months before, in between, incidents. And a paramedic, I've got to imagine, they see some pretty hardcore shit on an almost daily basis.
Yeah, and they see things where it involves people just doing their normal, everyday stuff, and then things happen to people.
And it's in, their neighborhood, their general area. I was in a foreign country, in the dirt, and, I didn't know most of the people that I came in contact with besides my own fellow servicemen. When I came in contact with an Iraqi local national, I didn't know them.
Yeah.
But, there's a chance that you're dealing with people in your own neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it takes a special person, like you said earlier.
Damn right. So I got to imagine...
I appreciate that.
I got to imagine the percentage is probably higher where shit really gets to those type of people, the rescue workers and whatnot, compared to the military.
Yeah.
Just because it's just so regular.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's and that's just the thing. Like, if you think about just how the normal stresses of life cause people to do whatever they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're putting people in a situation where their job is to show up to everybody, their job is to show up to your worst day.
Yeah.
And they see it every day. I mean, the compounding effect of that. Just like, and I talked to somebody about this recently, about the fact that newer people that get into the careers of being a cop or a fireman or a medic or whatever, they're seeing more death on a regular basis than it was before. So I'm just talking about overdoses.
Right.
So if people, if you have overdoses that people, let's say they went on an overdose call like once a week in the past. Now it's like 4 times a day. So the effect is I mean, it's quadrupled, maybe even more.
God, that's got to wear on you.
That's crazy.
I cannot imagine just seeing that shit all day long.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. I couldn't handle it.
I couldn't either.
I guarantee that would fuck me up.
I'm not wired that way. I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't. Wow. So you live in New Jersey right now, right?
Jersey.
In Jersey?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch, are you a football fan?
Are you a Giants fan?
Yeah, do you like the Giants?
I'm actually, remember we talked about sports earlier.
Yeah.
You didn't like playing sports.
I'm not a sports fan really at all.
That's okay. You got nothing to root for right now.
What's that?
You got nothing to root for in New Jersey right now.
Well, that's true. I mean, and if I were a fan, I live about 10 minutes outside of Philadelphia, so I'd have to say I would be an Eagles fan, if anything, but I really don't follow any of it, honestly.
Philly.
Well, that's better, I guess.
So I think when they do make the movie about your life, which they're goddamn better.
Yep.
Rescue the Rescuer is a pretty damn good title.
Yeah, they should just stick with that.
Rescue the Rescuer. Rescuer.
Well, I hope so. It's I'm working on a book. Slowly, getting there. But it seems like I'm doing different, different things. More and more keeps popping up regularly for me to do.
That's not a bad thing. That is a good thing.
Yeah, it really is. I'm helping a couple treatment centers begin first responder programs in this area. So that's another thing that's really exciting to me is, helping to put something together that wasn't. And I'm getting to speak in different places. I'm actually going to speak in Connecticut this week, this Saturday in Meriden, Connecticut, with Brandon Novak, who's famous from the show Jackass and Viva La Bam.
Nice.
Which one was he? Brandon Novak. I know that name.
You would recognize him. Here, I'll look him up
picture?
so you can see his.
I'm horrible
his
with names,
face.
but if I see his face, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I haven't met him yet, but it should be interesting. I'll be with him and another gentleman named Tim Ryan, who's had a A&E a show. It was just one episode, but I think it's going to be turned into an actual series called Dope Man. He's out of the Illinois, Chicago area, so he'll be up there too. So we're just trying to raise awareness, and I'm radical. I don't believe also things like that. If you were a heroin addict, that necessarily makes you an alcoholic, because I don't agree with that.
Right.
I don't do heroin anymore, so I'm not a heroin addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not an addict. Nobody's an addict. They're just a person who, you're not an action. You're not a behavior. You're a person. You're a family member. You're a son, a daughter, a wife, a husband, an uncle, an aunt, a grandmother. That's the things you are. You're not a behavior. And, that's why I just don't do anything with 12-step world anymore because of that.
Yeah.
Damn impressive. So are you 100% clean and sober all across the board now?
Yeah, I don't. Once in a while, I'll have a beer or a glass of wine, but I don't drink on a regular. I don't certainly do any other kind of drugs of any kind.
You don't have any. You don't have any issue with. I mean, you don't feel any kind of pull anymore. Like it's.
No, I don't. Awesome. And I'm not to say that I never will have a bad day, or the thought will come to mind, because inevitably, I guess it would, but at the same time, I've built a life, and I'm building a life that I like and that I want to be, that I want to have. I have my kids, I have family, I have my girlfriend, I have, purpose, I have places to go and things to do. So I don't see any need for me to go and destroy myself.
Yeah, you're a badass, dude. You don't need that shit anymore. You're a badass.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I'm just someone, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'll take the badass.
So how long has the podcast been going on now?
We've been, the show's been up since, I believe the first episode was August 1st. So a little bit over a month, a little over 2 months, I guess. And it's going pretty well. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. As you guys know, building that audience and building that brand takes time, but we're getting there.
It's a beautiful avenue to be able to express whatever it is you want to be able to express without anyone getting their dirty little fingers into it and messing up the recipe.
Yep.
It's can be completely uncensored. You can be on demand. You can give it to people for absolutely free. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. People love free shit.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm all about it. Anything in the name of giving somebody the opportunity to have a better life, I'm all about it.
Yeah, well, and especially doing it, I think, is awesome when it's something that you love doing, and you kind of maybe never realized it'd be something that you like doing, and then you start doing it, and you're like, this is awesome, and then you just get to do it, and it doesn't feel like it's work, it doesn't feel like it's a job, it doesn't, like you said, like you get to help people. It's a pretty cool thing that you can be fulfilled by something like that you get to create yourself.
There's the defining difference, I think. Like when you were a rescue worker, a paramedic, and all that, you were using that to feel a sense of purpose and
feel validated,
and meaning, and all that stuff. You're feeling this big emptiness that was in your life, but was it something that you really? Obviously, it wasn't, because you leaned on all the other things, the heroin and whatnot. It wasn't something that you necessarily got up every day and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go save some lives. It was something you felt, I assume you felt, a pull towards, but not for the right reasons.
Right,
It wasn't something like you were excited to do this.
Right.
You felt like, like right now, what you're doing now, podcasting, speaking to people, like that doesn't feel like a job to you, does it?
Oh, absolutely not, and it definitely doesn't feel like a job. And I think Bob Dylan said it, that if you could wake up in the morning and go to bed at night and do what you love in between, you'll never work a day in your life.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think Francie's talking about, is when you find something that generally makes you happy, not like you just think, oh, this is a pretty cool job. I still got to clock in every day, and I'm working for somebody else. But as jobs go, it's a pretty decent job. But when you're doing something you genuinely love doing, where it does not feel like a job, that I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's super interesting and cool in your circumstance that you were able to. You're just kind of your whole story and your situation where you had this horrible experience with the choir girl that passed away, and then deciding to join and be a firefighter and
the cheerleader girlfriend.
Yeah, that he was next to in the choir.
Right.
And then do the whole emergency response thing and sign up to do that, and then that kind of was your thing for a little while, but that obviously wasn't like your whole kind of journey. Like your journey is what you are now, but you had to experience all of that stuff and all the gross things and all of the the pain and everything that you went through to get to the point that you're at. But that's why you are where you're at now, because you went through all of that stuff. Like it's kind of, there's a reason, there's a reason for it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I believe there's definitely a reason for absolutely everything. I actually got the chance to sit down with a school the other day, a couple weeks ago, with the local high school, and to talk to their substance abuse counselor about me coming in and bringing in a program. The crazy thing is that this lady heard my podcast, the very first episode where I talked about that incident with the youth pastor, and she heard it, and she said she had to contact me because she knew that story, and she actually happened to work with that guy at that time when it happened.
What? Wow, that's crazy.
That's cool.
So she like validated your story, like not that your story needed validating, but she kind of was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, dude. Like totally, whatever. She had known the situation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just totally amazes me that it just blows me away that stuff like that could happen, and that's how I know that there's no coincidences at all. Things are just, we don't necessarily are always going to know what the reasons are or the plan, so to speak, but there's always a reason.
Yeah.
And, I've definitely found it to be true for me, for sure. So, yeah, that's pretty much my story, I guess, I don't know.
That's pretty much my story. It's just, it's a good story.
I would watch that movie. I guarantee I'll be the first one. I would actually buy the movie, the physical DVD, and have it on my shelf.
Well, I hope that happens one day. Perhaps maybe a producer will hear this show, this episode, and contact. We could all. Who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
You never know.
You just got to make sure if somebody does come to you, that you have creative control, so that all those dirty little producers in suits don't muck it up and turn that into a shit show where it doesn't even resemble the actual story. They jazz it up for Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about, like, David Gant we had on the show.
Oh, yeah.
That is an ideal example. Have you ever heard of David Gant?
I've heard the name, but I don't know who it is now.
He was the guy who that movie Masterminds was based on.
Okay, yeah,
Zach Galifianakis and Kristen Wiig. And we've had him as a guest on our show. He's a great friend of ours.
Yeah, super awesome guy.
He was the Zach Galifianakis character was based on him, the guy who robbed Loomis Fargo of $17 million, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to be fair, they did make it that it was going to be more of a comedic play on the situation. It wasn't like a serious like.
It was funny, but still, it's like if just the story that they ended up using and twisting and turning to make it
to the actual story,
to make it into their Hollywood style movie, was ridiculous compared to the actual way things went down.
Yeah,
and the true story is they could have turned it into a legit, like, dramatic, true to life movie, and it would have been a great movie. But instead they made it into this goofy, silly comedy with Zach Galifianakis and Kristen Wiig, which was funny, it was entertaining, but it was just crazy how the differences are. So don't let the suits mess with the process, brother.
Oh, yeah, well, listen, I've become very bold and and confident in who I am and my story and what I can hopefully try to bring to somebody. And again, a lot of people hate. I get a lot of hate from old coworkers who tell me that, oh, well, what are you going to offer anybody? And I get people. I just had a guy that I know that locally from in the area I live
in Jersey. He's
one of these 12-step people, and who decides to hate and say, who are you? What do you know? And all this stuff. I'm sorry he's so miserable. That's all I got to say.
Right? Yeah.
Why is he?
That's unfortunate.
What's he upset about? Because you're not following the 12-step process. And
because I just don't subscribe to that way of thinking. I don't believe I'm an addict.
Sounds like
I don't buy that crap. I just
like
don't.
A douchebag. Why can't he just be happy that you found your own way to sobriety and your own way to a better life? What the fuck does it matter?
And that you want
his way or some other way?
Because people are like that.
The end result is what matters. That's so stupid.
Yeah, that's the way people are.
God, there's so many douchebags out there.
It's unfortunate, but
the thing is, and I'm learning, and it's taking me time, and I'm not perfect not even close to perfect. But my initial response is to lash out and tell this guy what I think.
Right.
But it's like, you know what? What's the point? Like he's got his own misery. Why should I add to it?
Exactly.
By pointing out to him who he what his real deal is.
Yeah.
He doesn't even see it.
Sometimes what you can do is you can type up a message or a post and then just type out all the shit that you want to respond to it because you're like, what the F? And then you read it over again and then you just delete it because you get to write it out and express how you feel. You don't have to share it with anybody, but you can at least say okay, this is what I think about what you just said about me or whatever. Because otherwise, it's just going to be a back and forth.
I don't know. Maybe just give him a hug. Maybe just give him a hug and then tickle him a little bit.
No, I wouldn't post what I would say. If what I truly was feeling, if I was upset about it, I would just type it out and then delete it immediately, and then I'd
not actually send it.
No, I wouldn't actually send it. It's just for myself to get my feelings out, and then I would reply with a smiley face and a heart or something. Good luck to you, or maybe not even respond. I don't know. But I think that's helpful in a lot of situations. Sometimes when you want to respond to somebody, whether it's in your personal life or career-wise,
that can be tough.
I just write it out, or now I type it out, obviously, because of no one writes anything anymore with a pencil. Let's be honest. But you get to at least express how you feel to yourself, and then
what's a pencil?
I don't know. Number two, lead. Number 2.
I go number 2 every day.
At least twice a day.
You
have the tests where you fill in the circles, and if you don't fill them in properly,
I thought you were talking about pooping.
No,
that's what number 2 is.
I don't know because girls don't poop. Girls don't poop. I don't know what that means.
That is true. Steven's like, oh my god.
He's like, these two are
you guys are great. You guys are great.
That's amazing.
You gotta lighten things up, man. We just got done watching this very.
I was brought to tears a bunch of times, and I didn't let myself cry. So
we just watched this very dramatic movie, the Rescuer movie, and I mean,
now we need to find some shit to laugh at. You're right.
we need a palate cleanser for lighting the mood.
You're absolutely right.
Do you remember the TV show Rescue 911? That was on
God, the William Shatner show. Yeah.
Yes. Do you remember that?
No, not William Shatner.
It wasn't William Shatner?
No, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was definitely William Shatner.
Yeah.
I thought it was the dude from that was the host of Unsolved Mysteries.
No, Robert Stackman.
Robert Stack. He just did
Robert
Unsolved
Stack.
Mysteries.
Yeah, he just did Unsolved Mysteries.
And the Beavis and Butthead Do America movie.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was old Billy Shat that was the host of that?
Yes.
What?
Before you went kind of weird.
Can we look this up?
Yes, I'll look it up. So anyways.
Billy Shat.
I have a friend who, she watched an episode of Rescue 911 when she was a kid, probably 7 years old. And there was this episode where this family was super unfortunate and sad. And furnace, the pilot light in their furnace went out, and so their house like basically blew up after like a day. The furnace blew up because the gas was still on, but the pilot light was out, and then like someone lit a cigarette or something in the laundry room or wherever it was.
Who was smoking in the laundry?
I don't know. It was on Rescue 911. So then she literally for the next like 3 years had to go check the furnace every night before she went to bed.
What? Wow.
Every night she'd be down there, and
we'd be because
she watched that episode and traumatized her. She'd be on her we'd be on our sweet cordless phones in high school in like '94 when I was in high school. And I'd be like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm going down to the laundry room to check the furnace. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And literally, for 3 years.
And how many times did she go down there and smoke a cigarette while she was checking
Never.
the furnace? Oh.
Never. But it is William Shatner.
No, she's fine. Just
and
avoid the smoking.
He's got a full head of glorious hair in this photo.
Oh, man.
It was from
beautiful man. Look at
1989 to 1996.
I miss that.
So,
I watched it as a kid. It might have been another one of those things that motivated me to get in that industry for sure.
Yeah.
I imagine
that was one of the original kind of true to life reality documentary.
Absolutely,
style TV
that
shows.
and Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack too.
Is he still alive?
I think he
dead.
died. Yeah. But that was back when
his shows scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I know. I'm like, because
I'm still
unsolved.
scared of it. And then America's Most Wanted too.
They were unsolved.
Yeah.
So you're like this dude that you just told us all about.
There's a murderer running loose.
All this horrific shit he just did. That guy's still out there.
Yeah. Plus, America's Most Wanted, they're for sure still not caught.
Yes. Same thing. At least they gave you updates on America's Most Wanted. Like, hey, we got this guy. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah. But that goes back to the time where you actually would watch TV shows on the regular basis, and you didn't have, maybe you had a VCR, you could record it, but you didn't have Netflix, you didn't have Hulu. So like if you wanted to watch a show, you knew that at 8:00 on Wednesday night, Rescue 911 was on, and that was all that you got. Otherwise,
you better be in front of the TV at 8:00.
Exactly. Or you go to rent a movie and it's the VHS situation, and they have one never-ending story.
I am done with that old
video cassette that you get to rent, and if it's checked out, you're fucked. Like, you have to pick something else.
Medieval technology. I will take my streaming, Netflix and Hulu all day on demand. Watch it when I want to watch it. If I want to binge watch it, because I can. Yeah, no,
I'm just saying, like, don't take it for granted. Like, appreciate it maybe a little bit.
Appreciate the old way?
Appreciate the new way.
Oh, I do appreciate it.
Because I'm saying the old way, you actually had to get in your car and drive to go rent a cassette.
What's a cassette?
A video, a VHS.
What's that?
It's a tape. I remember when when it was beta or VHS. Beta. Do either of you know what beta is?
For our listeners out there. For our listeners out there.
On the History Channel, I think.
A VCR,
yeah, right?
A VCR is a device that we used to have in like the 80s and 90s that played a thing called a video cassette, and you would put it inside this slot, and it's basically like a cassette tape.
It's
what
like
is a cassette tape? A cassette tape is what came before DVDs. What's a DVD? DVD is what came before fucking iPods and Spotify.
No, a DVD is not that. You're talking about a CD, or you're talking about a Walkman.
We might have some listeners that are listening right now that do not know what a DVD is. Is that too much?
That's too much. They should know what a DVD is.
Yeah, that's
a little aggressive.
Laserdisc, maybe.
Yeah.
I bet you are.
If they didn't know what a Walkman is, I can deal with that. If they don't know what a VHS/VCR is, I can deal with that.
I bet you there's kids out there.
Or a black and white TV, I can deal with that.
I bet you there's kids out there that don't know what a cassette tape is. Never seen one.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's fine. I get that. Like,
did we ever find out the conclusion on this lowercase j controversy?
Yeah, you're wrong. It's not. There's no line. No,
okay,
it's just a dot.
Anyone listening out there, I believe that the original fancy way of a lowercase j had the little cross thing about 2/3 of the way up, like a lowercase
it's
c.
not English.
Not the dot?
No, it's a dot.
I don't know.
Yeah, the other one might be like hieroglyphics or something.
Yeah, you're talking Egyptian.
If anyone can find it, please message us some proof of this. Prove
yeah,
me
it's
right,
not going to happen.
Or prove me wrong.
Yeah.
We got to get to the bottom of it.
It's a dot. Lowercase J has a dot at the top.
That's the popular
Uppercase J has the little T at the top.
We'll see. I'll prove you wrong.
Okay. Well, Google says that it's that way, so believe everything on the interweb.
All right, Steven, I think it's about time to wrap this thing up. Let's pull this train to the station. What do you think, brother?
Dude, guys, thank you so much for having me on.
We loved having you.
It's been a blast.
We appreciate you sharing your time with us.
It's been a blast. It really has. Thanks a lot.
You're doing great things, and we're happy to have gotten to know you. You're a good dude. You're SARGE approved.
Absolutely, and we'd love to continue to support you, and can only wish you the best in what you've got going on in the future, because it's going to be great.
Yeah, you've got an amazing story, and it's great to hear you doing good things, from it. The conclusion of that crazy story that you told us is that it has a good outcome. It has a good ending.
Yeah, and you legitimately seem like a very happy, kind of grounded person now. And it's not even done, exactly. So, cheers to you.
Cheers to you guys, too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Salut! So, let our listeners know where they can find you online, and they can find your show and everything.
Yeah, all the things you're on.
Let's see. Well, you can find me at rescuetherescuer.com. You can find the show the same name on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, YouTube, HamiltonRadio.net, and the proudest place I'm a part of is the Mental Health News Radio Network, which is MHNRnetwork.com, and Facebook. I tell people my last name's too long, so just try to find me on Facebook. Just type in Rescue the Rescuer podcast, and you'll find me. I'm all over the place, and I would love to hear from any of you. I really would. It'd be awesome.
All right, man. You're one of the good guys. It's good to know you. And like I've said before, the world has plenty of bad guys. We need more good guys.
Yes.
So I'm glad you're one of them.
Me too.
Well, I'm glad to know you guys, and thank you so much for the kindness and the time that you spent with me. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to share this show, and not just this episode, but just let everybody know about you guys, because you guys are a blast.
We'll do the same for you. Love it.
All right, brother. You have a badass evening.
All right, you too. Talk to you later.
Yep. Guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Woo! Frenzy.
Hello.
Outro time.
It is time for the outro.
Steven
Kavalkavich.
Yes, that's an awesome guy.
Very awesome guy.
I feel like we just got through listening to a pretty damn intense movie.
Mm-hmm.
The guy has had one hell of a life. He has seen some fucking downs.
Yeah, seen and been through a lot of things, but still even seems to come out even more positive on the other side. So
that's what's beautiful.
That's
about
awesome.
It. The dude has risen up and he's doing some great things, and I'm really happy that he shared his time and that story with us.
Yeah, much respect to our friend.
Good dude.
Yep.
Glad to call that dude a friend.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thank you, Steven. We would also like to thank our sponsors for this episode, Northland Vapor Company.
You can find them at northlandvapor.com.
Use their promo code
SARGE20.
Use it. 20% off their e-vape liquid and some badass swag.
Heck yes.
The hats, the shirts. The shit's great. They actually look cool and they fit well and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta do
good quality.
With the hat here, I got the flat brim thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
The Northland Vapor hat. I still got the sticker, which you gave me shit for.
Yeah.
That's what the brothers do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be cool.
Yeah, you're so cool.
Looks good on them.
Mm-hmm. We also have Alpine Hemp. You can find them at alpinehemp.com.
And they got the promo code
SARGE20.
20% off the Alpine Hemp, the cannabinoids, the CBD oil, the capsules.
All their lines of good things. Good for your body. And good for your mind.
Comics watching comics.
Yes. They are now on Amazon Video. They have a live show. Get this. A live show on November 18th at Gotham Comedy Club in New York City.
I want to be there.
Yes, me too. So if you're in the area, check it out. Tickets are like $15. They're also going to post that episode on Amazon Video after it's all edited and done.
Beautiful.
And then we also have the SportsBook Box Office Podcast, hosted by
Kevin Goatee and Jeffrey Paul. We
Heck
just had
yes.
Jeffrey Paul on the show.
Yep. We had Kevin a couple weeks ago, and they talk about sports and movies and all the good things.
Yeah, I love those dudes.
Mm-hmm. They're
good
great.
friends.
Yep.
And proud to help represent them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, brothers. We have coming up on the Sarge Approved podcast, we have a live episode coming up on Thursday, October 12th at 8 p.m. Central.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do an in-studio show. We've done it a couple times before on Facebook Live. We had Darren Chase and Corey Adam on.
Mm-hmm.
This time we have Scott Brault, the Brawler, professional wrestler, world heavyweight champion wrestler, USA champion. The dude's massive. He's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to have him in studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so make sure you check that out on Facebook if you're listening to this before then. And you can interact with us, message us and stuff. Should be a good time.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And then we are going to play this episode out with a song by one of our favorite musicians, good friend, Culla. A little song called Save My Soul.
Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night. Bye.
Later, fuckers!
Pour me some water to wash the fire down. Blow me some kisses to break my lonely frown. Send me your loving so I can live again. There's always trouble around my every bend. Save my soul, hold it close and don't let go. Save my soul, hold it close and don't let go. My breath is only done to prolong my death. But when you show me love and respect, I lie awake and cry and shake. I see that love is mine. Everything else is a waste of time. Save my soul, hold it close and don't let go.